Assignment 27. Christmas. Cracked. This morning I woke up early and ran into my parents' room, shaking them awake just like I do every Christmas. They were sleepy, and I was too giddy to realize it was anything more than that. Too Christmas happy to realize today was be a bad day for Mom. Dad said 10 minutes. Give them 10 minutes, and they would be downstairs. Only 20 minutes later, Dad came downstairs alone, and I knew Mom wasn't coming down. "Look at all those presents," Dad said, gesturing to our tree. "We didn't. Why don't we open them? We can show your mom later." The way Dad speaks, the way he's always spoken, is smooth and rhythmic, like one of those old-time waltzes. But when he said that, I heard anger spiked in his voice. To be honest, that scared me more than anything, because this whole time, Dad had never been angry with Mom. He's been sad and tired and probably a little bit angry with me at times, but never with Mom. "Come on, Nats." He came over to sit next to me on the couch. "Aren't you excited? It's Christmas." The anger in his voice was gone by then, but I know what I heard. I shook my head and turned away. "I'm not excited," I said, and didn't bother controlling the anger in my voice. Dad sighed and he sounded so old. I'd never thought of my parents as old. Old in the way of parents, maybe, but not old. And then I was mad at Dad too, because he's a therapist. He helps people for a living. So basically, his responsibility to help Mom. And if he can't even do that, what is he good for? I don't know what I was thinking next, but I ran into the kitchen and grabbed a carton of eggs. Before Dad could stop me, I sprinted into our greenhouse, took the eggs out of the carton, one by one, and slammed them into the dead plants. I watched those eggs explode, thick globs of yolk soaking into the soil. My little Korean fire sat in the corner, wrapped in a big, happy Christmas bow, and I threw an egg at that one too, but I missed. All of a sudden, I couldn't even find it in me to stand anymore. I dropped the egg I was holding, and it cracked at my feet, and all the energy just seeped from my legs and into the earth. And then I was sitting in the dirt, not even caring about all the egg yolk, and then Dad was sitting next to me, because he didn't care about the yolk either. The greenhouse floor was warm from the heat lamps, and we sat and stayed sitting. I kept waiting for Dad to therapist me, and when he did, I handed him the last egg in the carton. He took it and held it up to the light and stared at it as if it were some foreign object. He looked lost, and I thought, if he throws this egg, I won't know what to do. Because then, look at us. We'd both be sitting in the greenhouse, making a mess, and who would clean it up? Dad held that egg for a long time, until I finally placed it back in the carton, and I think, maybe, putting that egg back was even worse than throwing it. December 25th, Assignment 28, Twig's Laugh. When I heard Dad on the phone downstairs asking someone to come over, I thought it was Dr. Doris, like maybe she made emergency therapist house calls on Christmas. It couldn't have been my grandmother anyway, because she was in California this Christmas with her boyfriend, Uncle Gene. I'd already made the decision not to leave my bedroom, even though I really had to pee, because I didn't want to see Dr. Doris. I didn't want to be therapist. But when the knock came on my door, it wasn't Doris. Somehow, Christmas miracle, it was Twig. "Let me in," she pounded her fist against the wood in her too loud Twig way. I jumped up from my bed and opened the door, all my energy yolk guts back in me. And when I saw her standing there in a reindeer sweater and jeans with tiny painted Christmas trees, I threw my arms around her and started crying. Kind of embarrassing, thinking back on it. But at that moment, I didn't care about anything except my best friend standing in my doorway on Christmas. "Why are you here? You should be with your own family," I said when I managed to get myself under control. Twig took in my tears, opening and closing her mouth. I'd never seen her at a loss for words, but then again, I don't think she'd ever seen me cry. She inhaled deep and walked over to my bed, hopping onto it as she spoke. "My mom was with me this morning, but she had to work this afternoon. She didn't mention her dad. Once we had been friends who told each other everything, even when everything was nothing at all. But things had changed. I'm not sure which one of us was closed up first. Twig was uncomfortable, feet tapping against the side of the bed, fingers drumming along my comforter, her whole body full to the brim with nervous energy. I'd messed up our pattern. I was supposed to say something totally unrelated after that, so the question of her dad wouldn't hang there unspoken, heavy in the air between us. Instead, I sat down next to her in the bed and asked, "Did you talk to your dad today?" Twig shook her head and bit her lip, and we were quiet for a long time. He texted to say he'd call later tonight. "Well, I'm sure he will." I lied. I didn't know much about Twig's dad, but I know she often dis- he, I know she's often disappointed. Twig shrugged. Twig shrugged means something matters, but she's pretending it doesn't. She changed the subject. Anyway, I came to drop off your Christmas present. I thought your dad hated me, but when I called to see if I could come over, he sounded like he might cry from happiness. She looked at me, waiting for an explanation, and when I didn't respond, she sighed and pulled a small box out of her pocket. Open it now. I took the box. It was badly wrapped in newspaper, which meant Twig had done it herself, instead of letting Helena wrap it in her mom's shimmery foil paper. I knew what it would be. She got me the same thing every year, and sure enough, I pulled out a tiny glass figurine. Whenever Twig and her mom went to France, Twig brought back these little figurines. She was obsessed with them for some reason, even though anything so fragile seemed anti Twig. This year, she'd given me a tiny green frog, in remembrance of Ronaldo, she explained. I smiled, and my chest still hurt, but I felt a little lighter. Thanks, I said, setting the frog on my desk and grabbing my present for her. It was an old board game I'd found at a thrift store, of course. I expected her to open it right away, because normally Twig ripped her presents apart, but she set it aside and turned toward me completely. So she was sitting cross-legged on my bed. Natalie, I just wanted to say, she took a deep breath. I know something's going on, and I don't know if it's something I did, or if you're sick of me, or if you don't want to play board games at all. We don't have to play board games at all if you don't want to anymore. I mean, I can play them by myself, or maybe with Lena, but Twig, I said, trying to interrupt her, but she was unstoppable when she got going. But if I did something to make you mad, I'm really, really sorry. I know I was annoying you at Dari's house, but Smeg survived, right? So maybe it's okay. I just, I know something's going on, and people don't think I can tell, but I can tell. And she stared at me with big eyes, and her mouth open and closed, searching for more words to fill the silence. Twig, I repeated, it's not you. I wasn't sure how she could be so right and so wrong at the same time, because of course, I wasn't getting sick of her. She was my best friend. I just assumed she was Twig, oblivious to the rest of the world. My mom didn't come out of her room today, I said, blurting out the truth before I could talk myself out of it. Twig's eyebrows scrunched up and her eyes filled with sympathy, and she said, "Oh, it's Christmas and she didn't come out," I said again, not sure if I was repeating it for her or for myself. Natalie, Twig breathed, and I realized then how unfair I'd been. Because the thing was, Twig got what I was trying to say. And I knew if I kept looking at Twig's face, I would cry. So I lay on my bed and rested my head on her lap. She didn't say anything, but she started playing spider crawling up your back on me, scratching and pounding against my spine. And when she got to cracking an invisible egg on my head, we both kind of laughed and then got serious again. And I broke all the eggs in our house, I said. Twig murmured. We could have used those eggs. I surprised myself with a laugh, and when Twig didn't say anything else, I took her silence as an invitation to continue. I forced myself to speak before the words got all gunked up in my throat. My mom's depressed, I explained to Twig. The word depressed felt funny coming out of my mouth. I never said it before, and saying it made the whole problem sound too simple. I felt Twig stiffen for a few moments, trying to figure out what to say, and I worried I'd said too much truth, that I'd scared her away. But then she softened and said, "That's why you've been sad?" I haven't realized until just now. I hadn't realized until just then just how sad I was, and hearing her say it cracked something open inside me, and I started to cry. "I'm sorry," I said, even though I wasn't sure why I was apologizing. Twig didn't respond, just kept cracking invisible eggs over my head and running streams of fingertip yolk through my hair. I felt weird about Twig comforting me, because she's Twig, so I sat up and pushed her over so she flopped back on the bed. "Hey," she protested, but she didn't get up. I curled up next to her, so we were both lying down, and that felt better. We felt like Natalie and Twig again. "I thought if we won," I said, "I would use the prize money to fly to New Mexico. If we could get there, and she could see these flowers." I didn't finish, partially because I thought I might cry again, and partially because I felt too embarrassed to finish. "What flowers?" Twig asked. So I told her about the cobalt blue orchid, about the science and its magic. I told her about Michaela's mom and the lab, and how Mom and I grew an orchid all our own, but Mom let it die. I told her the secret hope of my heart, my dream of taking Mom to the miracle flowers and saving her. "We'll do it," Twig said, and then announced louder, "We're going to win this thing." The sigh that came out of me was so loud and long that it didn't sound like me at all. Twig sat up on the bed, filled with new energy and purpose. Don't you, Natalie, sigh at me. We're winning that contest. We're winning the contest, and you're going to New Mexico, and you're going to get yourself one of those blue flowers. No, you're going to get 20 blue flowers. You could fill your greenhouse with them. Twig, I sat up really carefully. Approaching Twig when she got stuck on the idea was like approaching a wild bear. You have to move slowly and speak in a soft, soothing voice. Calm down. We might win, but we might not. This was something Dad talked about. Manage your expectations. And even if we did, my mom probably wouldn't want to go. She doesn't seem to want to do anything right now. I wish I hadn't said that. Saying it felt like a betrayal somehow, like saying it made it true. Of course she will. Twig was shifting her weight left and right, fidgeting with the excitement of a plan. Once she sees you did this whole competition just for her, of course she will. Sometimes you need to make one big move to win the game. Sometimes you need to show people how much you love them, and then they'll love you back. We can win this, Natalie. Twig was getting really excited now, and even if she doesn't want to go, we can still go. We can fly all the way to New Mexico and get that orchid. Orchid, I corrected. Orchid. Twig, I said slowly, a warm warning in my voice. Obviously, we can't do that. You're right. We can't, Twig winked. Twig, no, I know. Twig winked again. I laughed. Twig, I'm serious. But it didn't sound very serious at all. Not with all the laughing and such. Operation Egg is actually a secret mission, Twig shouted, jumping off the bed. With her bugging eyes and messy hair, she was wild in her excitement. Operation Egg is secretly Operation Orchid. No, Twig. I was laughing so hard my stomach hurt, like when you don't eat a certain food for so long that when you eat it again, your stomach starts cramping. That's what laughing had become for me. You look so funny when you're laughing like that, Twig said, and then she was laughing too. You look like a little snail. She crawled up on her side to imitate me, looking nothing at all like a snail. Twig reached her pinky out. I promised you we're going to win. I hooked my pinky with hers and said okay, because this moment was too good, and I didn't want to ruin it by being all weird and refusing to pinky promise her. But then I went ahead and did something even weirder, because this thought popped into my head, and I couldn't get rid of it. Twig, I said, I think Dari has a crush on you. Twig got all pink, and she rolled under her stomach and buried her face into her pillow. You think he does? She asked, her voice muffled. I'd never seen Twig like this, but it felt good to talk about something fun. It's pretty obvious, I said. She peeked her head up from the pillow to look at me. I got him a Christmas present too, but I didn't know if I should give it to him. I tried not to look surprised, because I hadn't considered getting Dari a present. It's a flamingo, Twig added. And I guess I'd forgotten to turn my filter back on after all that honesty, because without really thinking, I said, because he has skinny legs? For a second, Twig stared at me in open-mouthed horror, and then she rolled over onto her back and started belly laughing. And I started laughing again too, because laughs like that are contagious. Eventually, Twig had to leave, because her dad actually called, and she went home to talk to him properly. The way she looked at her phone, it was like she got the best Christmas present, and I knew she wanted to get home fast as she could. I handed her my present, and she hugged me hard. Remember our pinky promise, she said into my ear. When she left, Dad came into my room, all hesitant and hopeful. I ran over and hugged him. Thank you, Dad, I said into his chest. We hugged for a while, and he squeezed me so hard I could barely breathe. I didn't mind. I held on tight. At least, that's how I think you'd approach a wild bear. But I've never been camping or anything. Twig and I joined Girl Scouts once for a month in 5th grade, but that didn't last very long. I got bored, and Twig kept failing to earn her badges.